Hey everybody, I'm QB and this is Culturalist Theory. In this video, we are ranking the queen of hip-hop soul, Mary J. Blige's albums from worst to best. Note, this album doesn't include any best of, compilations, or her Christmas album. Only the 13 albums over her 30-plus year career. If you like it, give us a thumbs up and comment below. If you love it, subscribe and hit that bell notification so you don't miss a list. And hit that super thanks to support the channel and keep the lights on. Now that that's out of the way, let's get to it. Number 13, Strength of a Woman. We start things off with Mary's 13th album, Strength of a Woman. Released in 2017, this album debuted at number 3 on the Billboard Top 200, but the songs really found their home on the adult R&B chart. Set Me Free, Thick of It, and You Plus Me, Love Lesson were in the chart's top 10, with Thick of It holding the number 1 spot for a record-breaking 16 weeks. You can tell the songs were her way of processing the dissolution of her marriage to manager Kendu Isaacs. This album is at the bottom of our list because despite appearances from Kanye West, Quavo, DJ Khaled, and Missy Elliott, the album still felt dated. Number 12, Stronger with Each Tear. For a brief 13-track album, there are a couple of standouts. The One featuring Drake, Color inspired by the film Precious, and the international single Each Tear. Although not released in the US, Each Tear is cool because it featured a different artist depending on where in the world you heard it. Kanan in Canada, Vanessa Amorosi in Australia, and Jay Sean in the UK, to name a few. 9 albums deep, and Mary still sold 332,000 copies of Stronger with Each Tear the first week of its release in 2009. She is one of only a handful of women to have at least 3 albums debut with first week sales of at least 300K. This album eventually went gold and it has some good auntie vibes too. Number 11, Growing Pains. The best thing we can say about this album is that it won Mary the Grammy for Best Contemporary R&B Album. Mary once again was able to command A-list collaborators, but this album is unfortunately lacking in overall replay value. These are not the tracks you'll remember to revisit to match your mood, unless of course you're just fine. The album's lead single was written by Mary herself, The Dream, and Tricky Stewart. It peaked at number 3 on the Hot R&B Hip Hop chart and was pretty much everywhere in 07-08. The track also went on to earn a Grammy nomination for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance. There are guest appearances by Ludacris, Pharrell, and Usher on this album, but again, they don't really stand out. Number 10, Love and Life. We want to give this album some respect because it was her first nomination for Best Contemporary R&B Album after some category name changes. And there is credit due too, because she did win a Grammy for her collaboration with Sting, Whenever I Say Your Name. She was back with Puff for the first time since My Life in '94. He served as EP of this album and he brought the Hitmen with him to put this project together, including Mario Winans, D-Dot, and Stevie J. The songs on Love and Life are cool. A couple of the best are Not Today, featuring Eve, her collab with 50 Cent on Let Me Be the One, and Love at First Sight, featuring Method Man. Coincidentally, those last two are with her in the Power universe. You gotta love New York. The Mary Diddy reunion went well. Love and Life debuted at number 1 on Billboard 200 and R&B hip hop album charts and sold 285K the first week, and we already mentioned the Grammy nomination. Number 9, My Life 2, The Journey Continues, Act 1. Not sure how the sequel is also Act 1, but we'll roll with it. 17 years after the original My Life, Mary released My Life 2, The Journey Continues. Again, executive produced by Diddy. They pulled out all the stops to make sure they came away with something worthy of the title. They worked with Darkchild, Stargate, and Tricky Stewart, to name a few. Not everything was a hit, but there's some stuff worth mentioning. Next Level featuring Busta Rhymes, 25-8, the single Mr. Wrong featuring Drake, and Love a Woman featuring Beyonce are all part of reflecting Mary's growth personally and professionally. We see a confident Mary, at times filtered through her rap alter ego Brooke Lynn, but is still 100% Mary. Number 8, No More Drama. In 2001, Mary had everyone in a dancery with the release of this album and the Dr. Dre produced lead single Family Affair. After nearly a decade in the game, this was her first career number 1 single on the Hot 100 and worldwide number 1 hit. There were about as many producers as there are songs on this record, including Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, the Neptunes, and Missy Elliott. A couple of key samples too. Al Green's Simply Beautiful is used on PMS, and part of the theme song from soap opera The Young and the Restless is used on the title track No More Drama. With a number of producers, one could make a case for Too Many Cooks, but it was a commercial hit, going triple platinum, and a critical success, earning Mary 2 Grammy nominations. Number 7, The London Sessions. Mary spent some time across the pond working with British writers and producers like Naughty Boy, Emily Sandé, and Sam Smith on this album, hence the title. Leaked a month before its official release, The London Sessions was an unexpected and unique part of MJB's catalog. It feels unshackled unshackled and experimental in the ways she continues to find her voice. At times it feels grandiose, even though it's stripped down and the rawest album she's done since the 90s. And for someone who's bared her soul throughout her career, that's saying something. Number 6, Good Morning Gorgeous. 5 years after her previous album in 2022, Mary released Good Morning Gorgeous, an ode to the self-assured woman she's become. There is strong songwriting that recounts her story without feeling stale, or like we've heard it before, like on the intro song, No Idea. She worked with Anderson .Paak on a couple tracks and has solid collabs with Dave East on Rent Money, DJ Khaled on Amazing, Fabio Foreign on Top, among others on this album. Despite the variety, it feels and sounds authentic and true to Mary. Although it didn't debut as strongly as previous albums, selling just 25,000 equivalent album units, she still debuted in the top 10 on the top R&B hip-hop albums chart and passed Mariah Carey for the second most top 10 titles on the chart. Where you might have wondered after 30 years, yes, 30 years, whether Mary had anything left to say, she proves that she does on this project. Number 5, Mary. Mary had shrugged off many of the hip-hop elements that set her apart early. However, the depth and emotion is maintained and filtered in another way. Mary seemed more assertive and less forlorn than on previous projects. Where it seems she would accept the blame for a lot of situations on records, on Mary, she's asking for what she needs and demanding accountability. There is also a self-love that comes through. Highlights include Deep Inside featuring Elton John, where Mary talks about the challenges of fame, Don't Waste Your Time, a duet with Queen of Soul Aretha Franklin, Your Child, written by Gerald Isaacs, and the track Lauryn Hill wrote and produced, All That I Can Say, and Sincerity featuring verses from Nas and DMX. A double effort from the Queen, just a million off her peak, but a more than solid effort. Number 4, The Breakthrough. MJB had found new love and wanted to celebrate it with the world. Starting off with lead single Be Without You, followed by Enough Crying and Take Me As I Am, you got the idea Mary had turned over a new leaf, but she was careful not to turn her back on fans. Knowing that we appreciate the bittersweet side of love, she added some tracks like Good Woman Down, Ain't Really Love, and Alone. Brooke Lynn, Mary's rap persona, made a couple of appearances on Enough Crying and Gonna Break Through with a sample from The Champ. Mary was happy, but not all fans were happy for her, so we get an interpolation of Hate It or Love It, reminding people who she is and what she's been through on MJB, The MVP, featuring 50 Cent. She received 8 Grammy nominations, won 3, and went 3 times platinum. Before we get to the top 3, we've seen a few R&B acts switch up their name when they want to drop some bars. Brandy has B Rocka, Tyrese has Black Tie. Tell us who you think has the best rap alter ego. And now for the top 3. If you've been watching closely, you already know what they are. Classics. Any day of the week, anyone could be the top of our list, so here's our list for today. Number 3, What's the 411? With debut single You Remind Me and the follow-up Real Love, Mary J. Blige introduced us to hip-hop soul, and she's been the reigning queen ever since. It was here with the mentorship of Sean Puff Daddy Combs, whose star-making ability was yet unproven in 1992, but definitely on the rise, that they both put their stamps on the game. The melancholy lyrics and her soulful delivery over hip-hop beats and well-placed samples had everyone hooked. Her singles topped the charts and got us deep in our feelings. B-sides Reminiscence and Love No Limit are solid supporting tracks, and her interpretations of classics Sweet Thing and My Love are impeccable. What's the 411 peaked at number 6 on the Billboard 200 and number 1 on the hip-hop R&B chart. She sold 3.4 million copies overall and won 2 Soul Train Music Awards for Best New R&B Artist and Best Female R&B Album. Where were you, Grammys? Number 2, My Life. After the success of What's the 411, Mary got right back to work to record for Andre Harrell's Uptown Records and MCA, and there was no sign of a sophomore slump at all. Most of the production was handled by Puff Daddy and Chucky Thompson, who stepped in after some of the original What's the 411 producers demanded more money. It could be considered sample heavy, but Puff again knew how to select just the right samples to suit the mood and tenor of Mary's voice, from Barry White on You Bring Me Joy and Roy Ayers' Everybody Loves the Sunshine for the album's title track. They turned classic music into more classic music. The New Jack Swing is still in full effect on You Bring Me Joy and a little gentler on Be With You, Mary's Joint, and Don't Go. Following the template from the debut, My Life includes remakes of Mary Jane, All Night Long by the Mary Jane Girls, and I'm Going Down by Rose Royce, which for some became Mary songs too. Where some of these songs may get a bad rap is that it feels like Mary's always chasing a man and making excuses for his bad behavior, but she sold 3 million records and won the 1995 Billboard Music Award for Top R&B Album. Can't argue with that. Number 1, Share My World. This was Mary's first album to open at number 1 on Billboard 200. It was her first album after leaving Uptown. It was also her first where she serves as executive producer along with Steve Stout. She exercises more creative control and has writing credit on most of the tracks, along with her sister LaTanya Blige DaCosta and Rodney Darkchild Jerkins. There's a lot of Darkchild production here, who has been prolific with his collaborations and has been instrumental instrumental in a number of careers over the years. Mary got help from other heavy hitters too. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis on Love Is All We Need featuring Nas and with a Rick James sample. Bonnie and El DeBarge writing on the title track Share My World. R. Kelly wrote, produced, and features on It's On. And Babyface on Missing You and Not Gonna Cry, which also appears on a Waiting to Exhale soundtrack. If you think about it, who else could pull this off? The singles for this project, I Can Love You featuring Lil' Kim, Not Gonna Cry, and Everything, give us a taste of Mary's past, present, and what we could expect from her in the future. She would shed much of the sadness of toxic relationships, find love with someone else, and more importantly, self-love. How'd we do? Let us know in the comments. And while you're here, go ahead, like, subscribe, and super thanks. I'm QB. I'll see you next time.